once in a while.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners for the Park Ridge Park District. It's Thursday, March 20th, and it's 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bendy?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Halting?
Aye.
Commissioner LeDuc?
Aye.
Commissioner Matza?
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel? Commissioner Grau?
Here. Would anyone like to amend, add, or delete an item to the current agenda? All right, we will move on to public comment. We have no public. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. I move to approve the minutes from the March 6, 2025 regular board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, we're going to move on to approval of closed session minutes. I move to approve the minutes from the March 6, 2025 closed session meeting as identified in Exhibit A, and to maintain these minutes in the closed meeting records of the Park Ridge Park District, finding good cause exists to maintain them as confidential.
Second.
Any discussion? I do have maybe a point of order on this. If there was discussion, would we have to go into closed session to discuss it?
For closed session minutes, that would be recommended. Can't make you. You can, as a board, decide to reveal stuff, but if you wanted to amend closed session minutes, yes, you should do it in closed session.
Okay. Any discussion? No. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Halting?
Aye.
Commissioner LeDuc?
Aye.
Commissioner Matza?
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel?
Aye.
Commissioner Bendy? Commissioner Grau?
Aye. All right, President report. Thank you to all the board for working on our new review process. Hopefully it will go smoothly tonight. And thank you to Executive Director Shea for dropping his plans last night and going to the farmers market meeting. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. All right, Attorney Price.
I do have one item I want to bring to your attention. There's a bill presently pending in Springfield. It's out of committee. IAPD is alerted to it, and they may ask for your help. I'm sure people on this board are aware of the Grants Pass decision by the United States Supreme Court that says that municipalities and local units of government can control camping by the homeless in public spaces. Grants Pass said that that's not an infringement of federal constitutional rights. In reaction to that case, Illinois, this bill that's pending, would prohibit any unit of government from passing any policy, ordinance, or other restriction that would in any way interfere with the ability of the homeless to camp on any public property, which in the experience of some of the park districts we represent would mean surrendering the parks, including the middle of baseball fields, soccer fields, because under the terms of this statute, you would, unless it's an immediate and imminent threat of harm to some person, you have to give 7 days notice and take the person with the tent to court to get an order to be removed. And that's only applied to the one person and only for that time. And so, as I've had in a couple of parks in a little bit south of here, a series of people camping, you might not get your park back for quite some time. It's sort of the unintended consequences of trying to do something to help homeless. But the way this bill is poorly written, the answer to homelessness appears to be surrendering the parks. And that's not an outcome that IAPD favors. It's not one that law enforcement favors. In fact, the rule in Illinois had been, even under the Illinois Human Rights Act, that when the park closed, it closed for everybody. That was non-discriminatory. Everybody had to go out and leave, regardless of what it is you wanted to do, whether it was kiss your partner or your friend on the swing set at night and be romantic, or whether it was camp there. You had to leave when the hours were over. And this sets all of that aside and takes all the control away from you. So you may be asked to submit witness slips or a position point of view or contact your local legislator. We're trying to make progress on that bill, but if you get correspondence from me to the board through John that says now's the time to contact your local legislator, now you have the context for it. That's it for me.
Would that be for individual witness slips, or could the board?
You could do both. You could as a resident in their district and then also as president of the park board. But if you were going to speak for the park board, you'd want to have some sort of, consensus of the board before you took the official position in the park district. So. Is it in the House or the Senate? It's a House bill.
All right, thank you. Executive Director Shea.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As President Grau stated, I did attend the Farmers Commission meeting last night. The meeting began at 6:30. The main objective was to discuss potential locations for the farmers market. Prior to this meeting last week, I did meet with Joe Gilmore, Andrew Awesome, regarding potential sites. They asked us if there was any locations the park district could consider. If you recall, they brought up the idea of Prospect Park at another meeting in conjunction with the Hodges Park location of Cortland and Butler. I did relay to both Drew and Joe that Prospect Park would not work based on our usage of the park from football groups, soccer groups, our programs, O'Connor Rentals, Splash Pad, you name it. This wasn't the right location. I still expressed my concerns with Hodges Park or adjacent streets of Cortland and Butler, with our rentals, Trucktoberfest, damages to park because there's no irrigation and the trees in the shaded areas. They took that all into consideration. But what was presented last night at the Farmers Market Commission was roughly 10 different locations that they could consider. Some of them got vetoed right away by public safety and fire because there were concerns like where the placement of the hydrants were on Vine Street. If there was an emergency, they need to get access to it, things like that. The 3 remaining locations that they left open for continued discussions is number 1 was Cortland and Butler, still using those streets. Number 2, I'm ranking them in where I believe that they seem more favorable for. Number 2 would have been the Presbyterian Church. That was a new idea that came into fruition from the last meeting. The Presbyterian Church is where they have, the pancake breakfast, the spaghetti dinners, right by Lincoln Middle School over there, to use their location. The church seemed very open to that. They had a couple concerns regarding, the commission had concerns regarding if they would charge for the space or whether it be conflicts with weddings or funerals or whatever it may be, but that's still in consideration. And then the third one was Summit along closer near to the FM Global property. I did bring up the idea of Cumberland Park at our meeting. Drew discussed it with the commission, and they were not in favor of using Cumberland Park for the farmers market. So the next things that are going to happen is that the commission was going to think over the different locations. They've asked staff, meaning Drew and Tim from the city, to further investigate all 3 locations and come up with answers to some of their questions regarding cost, what conflicts there are. One of the commission members did ask what conflicts there are with Hodges Park, and Drew stated there's special events. Trucktoberfest is a big one where we do reserve 2 weekends for that event because we have one regular date, and then if it rains out, we have the next one. And then also was brought up the maintenance issues at the park. So they were reiterated last night. So they're going to go back and look at it. We might get some more questions from Drew or Joe, but the next commission meeting is April 16th. It's a Wednesday night. It's the day before our second board meeting in April that they will go ahead and talk about this. Their plan was potentially come up with the final location in April, not April, May, and then bring it back to city council for final approval to where it's going to be at. If it does come into anywhere near our property, they did mention an IGA would have to be in place, and both council and our board here would have to agree to whatever terms it was. But it was a long meeting where they went over all the different locations, but they narrowed it down to those 3. They do post all these videos online now, so the whole video is uploaded if you would like to watch it. But if, I'm planning on attending the April 16th meeting, to again address our concerns regarding Hodges Park, since it is still being a consideration. I encourage any board member who would be willing to attend with me to represent the Park District as well and speak on behalf of being a citizen of Park Ridge and a board member if there are concerns with this location, and keep moving forward. So that's where we stand today with the Farmers Market Commission and the meeting that was taking place last night and how it affects the Park District. Do I have any questions regarding the farmers market?
One thing you told me is there's 3 new members of the commission. So the word railroad comes to mind. So I'm not sure they're fully aware of our concerns. I'm wondering, Dirk, if as individuals or board members, we could write a letter, or as a group write a letter to express our concerns to that board. I feel like it's not getting to them, what's been said.
Well, you're always.
Well, as board members, I guess I would ask you, as individuals, we can, but do we sign as board members?
Yeah, you would carefully, one at a time, circulate a draft. We don't have a meeting of contemporaneous communications, but you could forward one, for example, to Mr. Tunnell, and then Mr. Tunnell could forward it on to another commissioner, and you end up with a draft which is approved by a majority of the board, and then it can be sent over. And the way it's done is once there's a draft that you have consensus around, it's actually effective to put wedding signatures from the board members on the bottom and send it over. I don't know what the tradition is over there. And do they acknowledge correspondences each meeting or read it into the record or anything? But some places do. So that's how I would.
Hopefully it wouldn't be at the end of the meeting.
Well, it would be in the public packet apparently.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because, we've spoken to the city council, you've gone to the commission meetings over and over, and it doesn't seem to be getting through. So I don't know if the board has an opinion about that.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, if they would require an IGA, like, they can't make us, right? Like, that's kind of at the end.
They can't make you, no. But my understanding was one of the conflicts, though, was they were going to put it on roads outside of one of our parks, making it difficult to program.
That's the issue, because they're saying they're not using Hodges Park, even though it will affect Hodges Park usage. They're going to block off Cortland and Butler, and that's where the event would be. So it would impact, let's say, Trucktoberfest. If they have those streets blocked off, we clearly can't use the same setup. Or Vine Street Barbecue or the Antique Fair that goes there may have impact to their events that are being held at Hodges Park, because they're not looking to rent Hodges Park, but they're going to put it on the streets of Cortland and Butler.
But they let it slip that they want it there because there's shade there.
The shade from, say, the trees that happened to be in Hodges Park.
Yeah.
Correct.
That shade.
Yeah, John had me explore this. So and this is not anybody's big secret, 2 of my partners, Julie Tappendorf and Adam Simon, work with the village. So I reached out to them to say, what's the deal about these conflicts? And they said, well, we were not going to hold the farmers market during those special events. But in talking to John, it was, if you held it on a regular Saturday, there's other programming that goes on in there that would be impacted, right? And so I guess I would suggest that the parents and the users of the park whose everyday or routine Saturday programming would be impacted, they would be an effective voice, not just the elected officials representing them.
Yeah, I think the thing that I heard that concerned me is that a city official said it was assumed that the farmers market would be closed on days where there are conflicts, and there's members of the board that have no idea that that's the assumption, because it wasn't stated in their first meeting. So, I think the wool's being pulled over their eyes, in my opinion.
I did not publicly speak at this meeting last night because I wanted to hear what was going to be said, because I've had voiced my concern before, and we did speak with Joe and Drew prior to the meeting last week. But I do plan on attending again on the 16th and voice my concern again about the conflicts, especially with Trucktoberfest, and how that would work with canceling the market or moving the market to a different location, whatever it may be, because that one will be highly impacted. Trucktoberfest has been around for a few years now and is highly successful, and we use the same footprint. So I do plan on speaking at the April 16th meeting for concerns on behalf of the Park District again.
And that meeting's at 6?
This one was scheduled at 6:30, so I assume it's the same time, 6:30 on the 16th.
Okay, well, I'm going to write a letter and I'll send it. And you guys can let me know if you want to participate or how you want to go forward.
I'd be happy to.
Great.
And I'd like to take a look at the draft. Former attorney.
You want? I just think the facts need to be stated to everyone so that everyone who's voting understands. And, yeah. No, I won't. Okay. All right. So I hijacked your report.
No, my biggest point that I want to talk today was about the farmers market, since this has been an ongoing dialogue over the last couple of months regarding location. But besides that, I want to give a special shout out to all the staff and the hats off to everything that they're doing. I think the Park District's in a great spot right now, even though we went from 2 inches of snow this morning to like yesterday when it was gorgeous out. So staff's adjusting, getting ready for summer. But things are going very well, and I'm very proud of all the staff that work here. So thank you.
All right. Any questions? Here we go. Director Holler. I'm using titles tonight, too. We're very
Good evening, commissioners, for using titles. My board report starts on page 8. I'm just going to go over a few highlights. The spring brochure was released on Monday, February 24th, and registration opened on March 3rd. We're also now working on the summer brochure because we're always working on some brochure, and that one will be released on Monday, April 28th. We did conduct a little contest on social media to name our field lining robot. Submissions were accepted through March 9th, and the winner was announced on March 11th. We went with our popular vote that got multiple submissions, and that was Linus, as in line us. So we now have Linus. More than one person thought of it. I think it got 4 votes. Park Ridge Friends of the Parks held their annual meeting on Monday, March 10th. A thank you to the park board members who attended and to Executive Director Shea, who presented a district overview of 24 and then updates on Oakton and South Park projects. Additionally, the Friends of the Parks approved their officers for 25 at this meeting. And after 6 years as president of the organization, Jean Costigan has stepped down as president. She remains on the board still, but just not as an officer. And Scott Grau has been approved as the organization's president. And staff is looking into a way to recognize Jean at a future board meeting. So something will be coming up in the future about that. And I just wanted to remind you the 12th annual Friends of the Parks Petals for the Parks event is coming up. Drop-off is on Saturday, April 12th, and the sale on the 26th. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Riker.
All right, good evening. Recruiting season for summer is well underway. We had our first job fair at Maine South yesterday, which was a huge hit with the students there. Then tonight, just finishing up, is our camp interview night, our second annual. When I left about 45 minutes prior to the end of it, we had already 70 students come through, so that was really exciting. It surpassed our 60-some we had last year, so that was awesome. We have a couple more job fairs coming up on April 2nd, Maine East and Triton, so we'll be attending those as well. We have several full-time postings that we are finalizing and finishing up over the next week to couple weeks. Staff has worked hard updating the mandated reporter training requirements for the district, just continuing to make sure we're in compliance, and rolled that out to staff, so they're working on making sure their trainings are up to date, which is great. I believe I had previously mentioned some staff had attended the mental health first aid training for adults. I'll be attending on Saturday for youth as well, and we're looking forward to hopefully bringing some of that to the district in some capacity, so we're really excited about that. We also kicked off the 2025 risk management review with our Paderma consultant, and they helped us talk through some things, and we're planning what our projects and such initiatives we're looking forward to for 2025. And then HR coordinator Tragars worked really hard the last month or so, updating our onboarding paperwork process for staff in preparation for the summer, trying to make it stream a little more efficiently for both staff and as well as the candidates. So we're excited to roll that out as everyone starts hiring for summer. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. All right, thank you.
We still have 70 lifeguards.
Say that again?
We still have 70 lifeguards coming back.
I believe we do. We are
That is
in good
awesome.
shape. Yeah.
More than that,
Might
I
be.
think.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Uh-oh.
And on the rec department, it was going to be updated. Right now, about 160 out of 206 lifeguards or aquatic staff are coming back. So 160 out of
Oh, I must
206 from
not have
last
read
year are
very
coming back.
closely. Wow, that's excellent.
It's usually like a 3-year cycle or so,
Oh.
ebbs and flows. So we're in a really good year.
We're ramping up. Next year might be the cliff. Okay. All right. It's over to Commissioner Bendy.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Superintendent Larson.
Great. Hello, everyone. My report begins on page 11. I just had a few things I wanted to highlight. One is the NIMAC electricity bid. One thing I wanted to add to my notes is that I did budget for a 5% increase this year, but it was on the total, including all the delivery charges, taxes, and things like that, and it was for the whole year. So I think we should be fine with the budget. But when the new rates start in May, I'll compare just to see how close we are. So I wanted to let you know that. Also, just wanted to highlight down below the last bullet point that we did have 2 maturities in February. One was a CD, and the other one was one of the treasury notes. Any questions about my narrative report?
And they're all going right out the door.
They're all going right out the door. Yep, they are going to Oakton right now, which is how it should be.
Do we know if the energy rate doesn't surprise me in the least? We have like increased electricity demand for like the first time in like 30 years or something like that. Did they say if it was like, did they say it was probably going to continue to go up?
Well, the problem is there just isn't enough electricity. So with all the data, yeah. So it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a really tricky time.
Yeah.
John and I debated, do we just wait a year and hope that it'll at least stabilize? But we felt uncomfortable with that. We were thinking, well, at least 2 years. It gives us a rate for budgeting and we can kind of see how things are settling in. They just can't build enough new
Yeah. I know.
venues for electricity. Yeah. So
No, I don't think it's going to go down unless people, but I was just wondered what you were told.
yeah, that's kind of what we were
Okay.
told.
All right. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
No? Okay. All right, motion. I move to approve the payment of expenditures in the total amount of $2,415,712.96.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? Okay. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Halting,
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc,
Aye.
Commissioner Matza,
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Aye.
Commissioner Bendy,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau.
Aye.
Okay, approval of ordinance number 25-4, amending the 2024 appropriation ordinance. Okay. I move to approve ordinance number 25-4, an ordinance amending the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Okay, so this is, I describe my job right now as a time traveler. So now we're going back to 2024. And at the end of 2024, I start looking at our actual budget and appropriation amendment for the year, and I compare it to the actuals. At that point, at the end of 2024, we're working with projections.
And so I kind of see how our categories are lining up. And are there any categories where we're over our 10% appropriation? Then as the year ends and all the, we've got the year-end closing entries and accrual, we start to finalize that. So I want to be clear, we are not over budget. We are not, even within the fund, or the funds themselves are not over budget. What this is just being transparent about moving. We did have some overages in categories, and we're just moving the budget amounts from one category to another. And really the goal is transparency for the community and the public. And it's also been really helpful for us because it's, you know, as we've looked at these categories, we've realized what we need to focus on for our next budget year, what we have control of, what we don't have control of. So that's what this amendment is about. And this will also be part of our audit so that the budget that the auditors are using in their report is truer to the actuals. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions?
So just so I get it, it looks like the museum is the nature center, right? So you're just like moving, it looks like you're moving within the same center. So
Exactly.
recreation goes to recreation and the nature center goes to another pot within the nature center. So they're all like for the same
Yep, the same
area.
fund. Yep,
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
you're exactly right.
Okay.
It does look like also that we budgeted to do some stuff in-house or by our own staff, and now we're looking to outsource some of that work.
What specific?
So there's museum fund repair and maintenance moves to museum fund contractual services. Museum fund salaries and wages moves to program instructors. So it looks like it's going from in-house to, that's the way I'm reading it. That's,
Well, so what we're doing is moving the budget. It doesn't mean that that necessarily is, like, we're not moving our process. We're not changing our process. We just had overages in one area and underages in another. Does that make sense? Like, we're not changing anything about our process. We're just moving the budgeted amount in those categories.
because now you have a clearer picture now that 2024 is done.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Leduc,
Aye.
Commissioner Matza,
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Bendy,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe, Commissioner Holting,
Hi.
Commissioner Grau.
Aye. All right, I'll turn that over. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Larson. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Leduc on Recreation.
Yes. And I will be turning it over to Executive Director Shea.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to present and discuss some of the items in the recreation update. So first and foremost, the Royal Ball was a magical event. We had 717 people. I was there. I was actually there, so I could tell you it was magical. It was magical. We had 117 participants. It was a slight increase from last year. Rapunzel, Belle, and Aurora entertained families from singing and dancing and storytelling throughout. So it was magical.
But were you in costume?
I was not in costume. I didn't get the memo, but next time I will be.
But he is missing a shoe.
Yes. I know we talked briefly about it last board meeting, but we did hold the preschool open house. Our attendance grew this year. We welcomed 49 families compared to 43 from last year. I believe that Julie, Brooke, and the Nature Center, Jenny, Molly, Maggie, and Kara all did a great job putting on information regarding our preschool for upcoming families. One thing is that the camp wait list is going great with the automatic wait list. It's allowing the new automatic system wait list for summer camp has improved registration management, so it's been going pretty well. Rec staff has been liking it. We continue to see a growth in athletic programs. We had 1,287 participants this February compared to 1,096 last year. Also, youth basketball did wrap up this past week. The Centennial Fitness Center continues to grow its memberships with 116 new memberships in February alone. Beyond the Bell program, as you can see, we have no wait list currently, so we're still getting people off the wait list. So huge shout out to the rec staff for getting that going. Active adult, we had engaging programs with a well-attended Valentine's luncheon sponsored by Oak Street Health. And we also had an Oscar party where 49 members enjoyed expert film reviews and predictions. As discussed earlier, the aquatics program and staff training, was seeing great numbers with the upcoming season. Again, 160 out of 206, out of 206 our aquatic staff are looking to come back this summer. I just think that's fantastic. They also had a February Valentine's Day bash and engaged 36 participants in the pool with games and swimming. I will open it to any questions regarding the recreation report and do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Has
Right.
there been any public feedback on the wait list, or is it just like a lack of complaining? Like,
I've heard from April that her staff has received positive feedback from it. Do I know exactly what all that is? No, but I've heard positive feedback from April and her staff with the new wait list of getting people off with emails. They've tell people to remind them to check their emails because you get an automatic email saying you've been selected. So from what I've gathered, it's all been positive feedback.
that's great.
Is that a new feature
It is
that
a new
came on the
feature this year,
software?
yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, if no one else has any comments, I will pass it on to Buildings and Grounds and Commissioner Bowe.
All right, thanks, and over to Superintendent Wolf.
Thank you. So my report does begin on page 45 of the board packet. We're just at the beginning of the busy transitional season as we get into spring, getting fields ready, pools, all that sort of stuff. Staff has been working through a lot of winter work and finalizing work orders that we're identifying through a new audit process that we're doing with our facilities. So that's been kind of a new transition, and it's been great working with our risk manager on coming up with some of these new priorities and getting a chance to look at all that. Linus got to work this week. So he did 7 soccer fields in one day that would normally take 7 days to do. So in this, yeah, he's out. He's out.
Have we attached a little blue blanket to him?
No, we talked about that though, that we might have to do that at some point. Yeah. So it's been great. The staff that are on our athletic fields crew, Juan and Jose, who have always done this, were part of the training. Anytime you're doing something to completely change how you're doing work as a supervisor, you're a little nervous. But they've embraced it with open arms, and they were talking about how awesome it was and how easy it was for them to use this equipment and the GIS software that it's with. So it's already working out really good. I think the biggest time savings is what we're finding is going to definitely be the setup time when we're doing new fields, et cetera. As the season goes on, we would normally have 2 people lining fields within a park at the same time. What'll happen now is we'll likely have one person walking at the other person doing other things and keeping an eye on Linus go around. But Linus will take about the same amount of time as they can for a single field. So setup, huge game changer. Accuracy is going to be bar none. Going forward, it's going to free up a staff member there to do other things on the site while they're on the property. So it's going to definitely level up what we're seeing out in the parks and give them different opportunities while they're out there. So everyone's really excited about it right now. So
I love it every time you say Linus.
I figured I really have to just get in the habit of doing that, or I'll be chastised. So that's going well. And then I also just want to bring to the board's attention, and the public will be getting notices. Actually, they've already gotten some preliminary notices, but we are planning a burn out here at the swale next week. So, yeah. So we're working with a new vendor this year, Footstone. And as we discussed when we were going into this process, the whole goal was to have them work with our team for educational purposes and to train alongside them. So part of our agreement was for them to work with our existing burn crew. We do have a burn manager on staff to facilitate this first one that we've done in a while and with this specific crew. So They looked at the weather next week, the temperatures and wind directions, everything looked favorable for this location. And this one's never been burned before, so we think it'll be a good, good fresh start for it. So, so Patrick's leading that effort with his crew, and we're really excited about it. So, I will let you know. We obviously we have to. So the way this works is we work with the fire marshal in town and all these other things. And so once we get the final okay, we'll let Margaret know so she can let the public know, and we can certainly follow up and send something out as well. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions in my board report. I do want to point out also, sorry, that now that Patrick has the fleet. 4-person under his direction with his new role as the Parks Maintenance Manager. Instead of having a separate section for fleet, those kind of items and topics will just be rolled under the Parks Maintenance Division stuff. I put a little "and fleet" on the title for that space this time, just to kind of talk through that and make you aware. But just so you know, anything that's happening will be under his report now. So.
I know that ejector pumps aren't really a great conversation, but how did you manage to get so many decades of use out of 2?
It's probably because they made things better back then, for sure. Unfortunately, the reality of that answer is the reason that they were still in place is because we have not yet, although we are working on our completed out asset replacement plan. And so all the staff that have always crawled in there to work with them had no idea how old they were or how long they'd been in place, the need for replacement. So this was like a huge underscore on that process, which is underway. Actually, Lauren Blackburn, our sustainability coordinator, is leading that effort for us right now. And we have an anticipated completion of that, goal completion of August 1st. So, yeah, we would never have let it go that long, but that's how long it went because we've never had the opportunity to invest the time into putting together a good asset replacement plan. So,
yeah, it's great. So then, are there any other hidden ejector pumps out there that might be off the radar?
Well, if they were hidden, I can't tell you about it. So, this did spark the conversation. We do have an ejector pit at Centennial Pool that serves the concession stand, and so I had some follow-up discussion with the team about making sure that that's getting its preventative maintenance. And so they said they have done some work with that before, but they're going to double check and double down to make sure that everything that should be getting done should get done, because the person responsible for the area has not always been responsible for that area. So there's been a little bit of transition, but again, this is something that we're putting it up on our radar and having these discussions. So it was what we were planning on and working towards already this year. This just allowed me to say, see, we don't want to have this again. So, so it's helped with a little bit of buy-in too. So,
great, thanks.
I have a question about the e-waste. That costs money, doesn't it? The e-waste collection, like you have to pay to get rid of that stuff.
Usually, I'm not sure about this one. I had not heard about a cost. So when Lauren was working with them, they didn't identify a cost, but I do know that the Nature Center staff used to have kind of an ongoing drop-off for small equipment or small items before. So I don't know. I am familiar with, in my past, I've known of places that would take smaller items because they were getting valuable, materials and metals out of some of those smaller things. So if it's smaller, they could do it at no cost. But I think when it starts to become a large scale issue, then you have like transportation.
Yeah, the TVs.
Things. Exactly, which that's not what this is.
You're looking at, like phones or.
Yeah, they're looking for small, like handheld carry, because this is going to happen during the Earth Day event. So you won't even be able to drive up near this space. And so, when Lauren first brought this to the sustainability committee for discussion, I had, shared that my experience with some of these types of events are like mile-long lines with people, and it's just you need semi-trucks and forklifts to offload these things. I said that's not the right fit for this event, which everyone agreed to. So, but she worked closely with the recreation staff in the Nature Center that do all the programming for this, and they felt that making it this offering that they're putting forth is something that they can manage here. So I'm trusting them and expecting that they've done that. So yeah,
clear messaging.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm just really happy about the aluminum cans and the vending machines. I mean, that's going to be a lot of plastic bottles. And also, as someone whose kids always want a soda, the cans are smaller than the plastic bottles, so they're not all like jacked up on, not as jacked up on sugar and caffeine. So that'll just be a lot of plastic that doesn't get recycled well.
Yeah,
No,
and single-use plastics, I'm glad you're looking into it. I know it's a transition.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it, and I have to hats off to Superintendent Larson with this as well because she handles the vending machine contracts. So it came up as an idea. Lauren brought it up, and she immediately said, "Yeah, of course, why not? Let's do that." So it just was that easy. So, yep.
Saving the world from trash. And add that to your job description. In addition to time travel.
All right, moving on to the fuel card program. I move to authorize the application process for participation in the WEX State of Illinois Fuel Card Program and authorize the executive director or designee to apply.
Second.
Discussion.
So I do have a board memo here on page 49 of the board packet. This is part of a joint purchasing agreement. As we went into last year, we had some budget available for planning to remove the fuel storage tank, the underground storage tank at Hinckley. When we began to look at that, we recognized that the likely cost for moving forward with that replacement and having a fuel system was going to be in excess of $300,000 with a life expectancy of around 30 years. With that came the simple math of, well, we really need to be saving over $10,000 a year to have this, to make this worthwhile, and we don't go through enough fuel to make that reality happen. It's also situated in exactly the middle of our maintenance yard, so it is like, it's a game of how can you not run into this thing as you go around. And it's been there for 30 years, and it's been taken out a number of times that I've been told. So it's that challenge. Obviously, there's an environmental, risk of having this. And so just as we started to unfold this and work with, someone that works in this area, my opinion was that it doesn't make sense. We're also reducing our fuel dependency as we go forward. And so I started to explore different opportunities, and I had identified that there is this fuel card program. So the idea here is that existing fuel tanks are still there. We're still going to continue to use them. We're going to roll out this program now. The existing tanks are just recently safety certified. They're good to go for 2 years. So we're going to get these fuel cards. They don't cost us anything, but we have savings that come along with them. They essentially are assigned to each vehicle, and then each staff member has a PIN number that they have to purchase fuel. There's an app. I downloaded it on my phone. It tells me what the price of the fuel is at every station. I can use every station in town, so maybe there will be one that is close by for them here at that park and another one's close by there. They might find with the trailers that we have that, okay, this is a process that we need to get used to at this time of day. This station's going to be best for us to get in and out of, but it's an easily manageable situation. We're not getting rid of those tanks just yet, but we want to give this a little bit of time since it doesn't cost us anything to do that, to see how it goes. And if this does continue to work well for us, that'll inform us on moving forward with a capital to remove our existing fuel tanks and decommission those. So this is just kind of where we were heading as we went into the planning process last year, and so we're just kind of moving forward with it now. Because it's a purchasing card, Karen said, you got to bring this to the board for approval. So it's got no necessarily expenditures, but that's why we're here looking for your approval. So be happy to answer any questions.
Any ballpark for removal cost?
It varies. I've heard that it could be, 50, 60 plus thousand. We've got money budgeted for like planning for it right now. I've also heard from someone that I've been, working with and dealing with on this, that there might be some funding available, grant funding to help offset that, but we're not at the point of having that discussion just yet. So, but yeah. So, and if that's the case, it might be down as low as $5,000. So,
Are we still looking to talk to the city about doing something jointly with the Public Works? I know we had talked about it in the past.
I'm still open to having that conversation. The last time I did talk to them, they were uninterested. So, I mean, that was quite honestly their response. So, um, my thoughts were that if I found another way that I thought was beneficial for us, that worked and was functional and didn't have a cost, we can always have that conversation. But there's no reason to not do this. If I enter into an IGA with them for that, they might want to have us on the hook for a part of the replacement cost as well. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm open to it, but at this point, I'm not putting my efforts towards it. So.
Terry, were there other park districts that use this system, the WEX, or is this the only one in the state, or how did you hear about it?
You know, I'm not sure if any other park district use it. I found that we have a lot of different joint purchasing agreements, and one of them is through Sourcewell. We use that quite a bit. When I did some research, I found that they had one there on Sourcewell and that it worked well and that it was the provider for the state of Illinois. And so I just thought, well, we're basically signing on to the bid that the state of Illinois has for fuel. Made sense to me. So, yep.
On a per gallon basis, is it like, I assume, do we take delivery to gas to Hinckley then? And is that cheaper than like the retail cost at a gas station? And like, how big of a difference is it? I saw that there's a 1.5% rebate, and does that like kind of make up for any higher cost that the gas station might have? Like, is it a wash?
I think it'll be close to a wash. It's a little hard to say because when we purchase fuel, it is lower than what you're paying at the pump, but we're still currently paying some taxes on that, although we won't be going forward, we don't believe. It's the price fluctuates, so it's a moment in time when the fuel is purchased, and it's not, by the time you add all these things onto it, it's not that much lower. So I actually think it's going to be kind of a wash. So, but that'll be another thing. Like, we're going to be very specific about a few certain vehicles and kind of tracking that and looking at what that cost is and how that works out. So we'll continue today to track on that.
It's an elegant solution.
I like the idea of not having to worry about the tank anymore.
Yeah, and it reduces the need for certain staff to have certain certifications too. So at one point, our previous mechanic had that, and he left for another employer. We were scrambling, and actually Patrick, who was our parks foreperson at the time, scurried up and did the training and educated himself so that he could get past that for us, so that we weren't non-compliant. So, I mean, he turned around and did it in like a week. So it was kind of a nervous point there for us. Now we have a few people that have it, but it was like, oh, the things you didn't know until you had to know it. So
That's a cost also.
yeah, it's not really expensive. It's like $100 or $200 every so often, and then we have a company that does inspections. So there's money, and we have a fuel dispensing system that we've got software on, and then we've got to have IT help with, and there's a lot of other costs there. So at the end of the day, it'll be a wash or a veterans, I think. So.
I was looking at the bills, and this is for you, Dirk. I noticed you had approved this contract, or what? Yeah, what was anything that stood out to you, or that was
Many people, there are many units of government that use WEGs.
okay?
And
Yeah.
as we discovered,
Yeah.
you guys were paying tax on gas you shouldn't.
Okay, all right, good, all right, thank you.
All right, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Matza,
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Bendy,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe, Commissioner Halting,
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau.
Aye.
All right, and moving it over to Commissioner Metza. Oh, there's one more, sorry. All right, I move to approve an agreement for the removal and replacement of CFC flooring and consolidated flooring in the amount of $68,804.43 for the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement.
Second.
Discussion.
So this memo is on page 55. Just moving through our capital replacement project. This flooring for this portion is specifically for the party room, or what was the old daycare room, and the locker room areas that are carpeted within each of the public locker rooms. So those will be replaced with a vinyl flooring similar to what we've been installing at a lot of other locations because it's been successful for us at like Main Park and the Wildwood preschool area and the renovated wing. We've had it at South Park. We've had it in a few other areas now. So we're looking to transition to that, and we'll still have to come back with something. We've still got some money left to work on doing some work on those showers for grouting, but this is just a part of the replacement program. So
Will that happen when it's shut down?
yeah, the contractor has committed to be able to do this work during shutdown. So
I saw this was through the tips. Like, didn't we just join them?
we did.
Was this something that you identified before, or is this something that just
We had
coincidence?
and actually we have used them before. They did work at the fitness center last year, the carpet in the hallway. But they're actually part of two different joint purchasing groups. And so when we talked to them this year and we mentioned that we were also in tips, they said, "Oh, well, our price with the tips agreement is just a little bit better, so we'll put it under tips." So
sounds great?
yep.
And a roll call?
Commissioner Tunnel? Commissioner Bendy?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Halting?
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc?
Aye.
Commissioner Matza?
Aye.
Commissioner Grau?
Aye.
And that's moved, and now I'll send it over to Commissioner Matson.
I'll turn it over to the executive director.
All right. One thing with policy that we've been discussing at the end of last year and the beginning of this year was the board policy manual. Thank you to Commissioner Matza for all his help going through this board policy manual. We have made some changes in edit. Dirk and Aaron both have reviewed it, but we like to start scheduling meetings with each board member to kind of go over the proposed changes that were in the board policy manual. Mary Beth and I will work to send out like a sign-up genius for a couple of dates into next week and the following week to try to meet with everybody for an hour to go over the changes. I will also send a copy of the old manual and then the new one that's been proposed. Formats changed. We moved policies in a different order, but we want to get everyone's feedback. Our goal is to keep having these meetings with each board member to then go ahead and vote on this potentially at the May 1st meeting to have this policy adopted before we swear in our new commissioner. So more information to come. Please take a look at the email and read it. I have saved every red line copy that Commissioner Matson and I have gone back. We have several, so we could track all the changes that we have done throughout. But again, we did consult with Ansel Glink on this as well to provide any legal updates and their feedback. It was great using the PowerPoint that Aaron put together for a conference to kind of go off as a key. So it was really cool going through that. Any questions? Sorry.
I just had a note that when you're scheduling meetings, you might want to make sure there's plenty of spots that are not next week because next week is spring break for D64 and D207, which is going to affect a number of us.
Correct.
I just want to thank you both. I see the emails that get copied on them, and I can't even count how many emails and meetings you all have had. So it's really detailed work. It's taken a lot of work, and I appreciate it.
The dates that we targeted potentially for next week was towards the end of the week or that weekend and then into early next week. So it's not going to be like Monday or Tuesday. It's later on because of spring break. So
It'll also give everyone an opportunity to actually read through it.
it's true.
On spring break.
I've read through it enough times. That concludes policy. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Tunnel for it.
Concludes intergovernmental.
Communications and correspondence. We have 2 letters in our packet this week.
We do. One is a thank you note from PMA. We finished at the beginning of March. We closed on our bonds, so they sent us a little thank you note. I'll report about that at the April meeting. But they were great to work with. They answered all my cajillions of questions and made the process really, really easy and straightforward. So it was great.
The second letter we received was from Nasser, thanking for us for their donation. We did give a digital picture frame that was part of the silent auction, And then they did raise over $75,000 this year. As stated before, it was a record high of attendance that they've had. So really great event, and they were just thanking for our contribution.
Thanks for representing Commissioner Bundy and
My pleasure.
and Executive Director Shea. All right, do we have new business?
No.
We do not. Okay. I move to adjourn to closed session for the purpose to discuss the Executive Director's 2024 performance review, annual review of attorney services, and personnel issues per 2C1. We will reconvene to open session to take action if needed on the matters discussed in closed session. That's not roll call, right? All in favor? It is, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. All right.
Commissioner Bundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowe, Commissioner Halting,
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc,
Aye.
Commissioner Mensah,
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Grau.
Aye. Should know that by now. All right.
Thanks.
We've returned to open session. The time is 9:03 p.m. We have no action to take at this time. I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right.